Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I dive on into today's review, do want to remind you if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a couple of ways. First, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal, or by becoming a monthly member of our Patreon. And you'll find links in the show notes. Also in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. So be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Today, I am going to be sharing my review of Rivers of London in Liberty's Shadow from Chaosium Inc. This 206-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $44.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $22.99. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got In Liberty's Shadow for Rivers of London. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a good feel of what you're going to find inside. And then lastly, there are a couple of lengthy adventures which are contained within. So if you're a player and your game master has picked up In Liberty's Shadow, maybe they just haven't started running the adventures yet, maybe they're talking about picking this up, there are going to be some spoilers ahead. So you have been warned. No major spoilers, but there will be some spoilers. First thing we're going to do is take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life, so let's give credit where credit is due. If you're not familiar with Rivers of London, it is a series of urban fantasy novels written by Ben Abramovich. The majority of them do take place in the UK, but later on in the series, they do branch out a little bit. We do have some adventures which take place here in the United States. And of course, In Liberty's Shadow is the Rivers of London role-playing game supplement, which covers the US. Now, you might recall I reviewed the Rivers of London role-playing game and liked it quite a bit. We'll see what I think about In Liberty's Shadow in just a few minutes. So we're going to start off with some information about how the tone and style of case files, adventures in Rivers of London, will differ in the United States than they will in the UK. And mainly because here in America, we have such freer access to firearms. Case files will turn violent quicker and may end up being more violent than they would be over in the UK. So there are some other differences in style as well. As far as the production quality of the book, very, very nice. Nice, thick paper stock. I will say the artwork kind of a mixed bag. There are some pieces like this I really like. There are others that kind of ho-hum. So overall, I found the artwork to be a little uneven, but there isn't anything so jarringly bad where I thought, how did that make its way into here? But as I flip through, you will see the artwork does have a lot of varying styles. So we'll have information about creating American characters. As far as Rivers of London, normally the player characters, at least most of them, are going to have ties to law enforcement or be in supplemental roles or support roles to law enforcement, because over in England, we have The Folly, which is an organization that has been created to investigate paranormal crime and the supernatural, magic, and so forth. Whereas here in the United States, we don't have a dedicated agency as of yet. So there is an opportunity to play law enforcement agents, of course, but you also have the opportunity to be paranormal investigators or librarians or monster hunters, which actually opens up a lot of different options as far as how these case files will be investigated by the player characters. So I like that quite a lot. We'll also get the history of magic in the United States. Now, keep in mind, in the world of Rivers of London, magic is real. Fairies are real. The Fae exist. But they're kind of hidden. But magic is becoming more prevalent, and we're starting to see more of the creatures and monsters that exist kind of making their way out of the shadows or coming beyond the veil. So very interesting there. Now, you might recall if you watched my review of Rivers of London, I pointed out that you did not have to be well-versed in the series of novels to really enjoy the role-playing game. It's going to be the case here as well. As long as you have the Rivers of London core book and In Liberty's Shadow, you as a game master are going to be able to present these adventures with the feel of Rivers of London. You don't have to have read 8 of the novels just to be able to pull this off. So I do appreciate that quite a bit as well. We'll get information about the different factions who utilize magic in the United States, some of the potential allies, maybe potential adversaries as well. Then we're going to dive on into our adventures. The first adventure, Wooly Bully, is essentially an introductory adventure. It is a shorter adventure. Now, if you just run this straight through without any of the optional encounters, this is probably going to run 4 or 5 hours. There are some really interesting optional encounters here that you can add into the mix, which I would say probably brings the playtime of this case file to maybe about 8 hours. As I mentioned, having different kinds of characters as opposed to the majority having some sort of ties to law enforcement really comes to the fore in this adventure, because one of the optional encounters involves a mobile meth lab. Because you got to keep in mind, Rivers of London takes place in the real world, which has real world problems. It never shies away from that. And the way these two adventures are presented, I appreciate that as well. We're not kind of dummying down things just because this is an urban fantasy role-playing game. No, now keep in mind, this also isn't an oppressively dark setting either. It's not as if magic is going to destroy the world. Maybe it could, but it's not as if your player characters are racing against time to save humanity or save our existence or anything like that. There is a little bit of lightness to the various Rivers of London novels, but not to the point where it's, oh, gnomes and fairies and fae, haha. No, not at all. Interestingly enough, in Wooly Bully, the player characters are brought in to investigate this animal attack, which ended up in a death. And then, of course, first they think maybe it was a bear that attacked, because this is taking place in Montana. And then they realize, okay, well, it's not a bear. Interestingly enough, it's a hybrid between a human and a bison. Pretty wild right there. But cool adventure. I really like this adventure. I could really see doing a lot with Wooly Bully. Of course, it is linear. It's not to the point where, regardless of what the player characters do, everything's going to be set in stone. So even though it is linear, it's not going to feel like it's really on rails to the players if presented properly by the game master. Now, the longer of the two adventures is a regular picture palace drama, which involves a haunted gun. And it is a haunted gun from the 19th century. It is a buntline special, which, if you've seen like Wyatt Earp, like Tombstone, Wyatt Earp has this revolver with this really long barrel. That is a buntline special. And interestingly enough, the gun is not haunted by a person. It's actually haunted by old Hollywood films like silent era westerns and such. And it's kind of a MacGuffin. The gun actually is a MacGuffin. It's just to get the player characters involved in the adventure. But there are all these different factions who are chasing after this gun. And at the end, if the player characters end up with it, they have a lot of options of what they can do with the gun. It's not just set in stone. Oh, they're going to do this with it. Oh, they're going to destroy it, or they're going to give it away. So I like that quite a lot. This is another adventure that has optional encounters, optional scenes to it, which the reality is I would certainly recommend, if you have the time with your group, utilize the optional encounters in both adventures. I think they add a lot to each of them. Then we're going to move into our appendices. We've got some pre-generated characters for you. We have some new spells. We have some new creatures. But as you can see, some of the artwork is quite different than other pieces of art throughout. Now we also have this really cool map of the United States. It's kind of a cryptid map. Strangely enough, there are only 33 entries. So as an example, we have Nevada. It shows a slot machine. So it doesn't get any paranormal entry. I thought that was kind of strange, really. But we get just a little bit of info there. And then, of course, we will get a bibliography and some resources here, too. Wrap up with our index, and that is a peek inside Rivers of London in Liberty's Shadow. Once again, this is available now. The 206-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $44.99. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $22.99. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. If you recall my review of the Rivers of London role-playing game, I really liked it a ton. And one of the reasons why I liked it so much was that it didn't require game masters or players to have read any of the novels in order to really invest themselves into the setting. There was so much contained in that core book that game masters and players could really feel like they were playing in case files taken from Rivers of London stories. And if you were familiar with Rivers of London, that just made it even more impressive that they utilized so much from those books. That's the case here within Liberty's Shadow as well. Love the fact that we've got some new options for our player characters. They're not all tied into the folly. They're not all tied into law enforcement either. Not to say that they were in the Rivers of London role-playing game, but they did veer in that direction. Here, we've got monster hunters, paranormal investigators. You want to be a librarian? You can be a librarian. So I like that a lot. The two adventures, very, very solid. I like those quite a bit. As I mentioned, if you have the time with your group, utilize those optional encounters because they really add a lot to both of those case files. Honestly, if you're tight on time, I guess I could see racing through both of those, but to really get the most out of them, definitely recommend use those optional scenes. As far as production quality, top notch, as we expect from Chaosium Inc. As I mentioned, the artwork is uneven, but also pointed out there wasn't anything shocking and glaring. It's like, oh my, who put this in this book? But it is very uneven. It is not uniform by any stretch of the imagination. Some people won't care. Other people will. Just wanted to point that out. All in all, I think this is a fantastic supplement for Rivers of London, the role-playing game. If you are interested in having case files taking place on this side of the pond, I think this is going to go a long way to making that happen for game masters. If you're more than happy with adventures taking place in London and the UK, this probably isn't essential for you, but I still highly recommend it. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Rivers of London in Liberty's Shadow an 8.5 out of 10. That is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Will not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for our latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.